just a segue here. You brought up a little bit earlier talking about what the Leafs would be willing to part ways with, and how um, it's hard to part ways with a first. It's hard to part ways with prospects because we already have a limited prospect pool. And Scott Wheeler of the Athletic this past week released an article. He usually does this around the midway point of the season. I believe he does it around the All-Star break. Just talking about where the Leafs rank prospect rankings wise among the rest of the NHL. And they rank his ranking. He has them at 28, which is a 10 place drop from 19, which they were at last year around this time. I think it's important to like kind of pay attention to this stuff because you gotta like if we want to be buyers, we're gonna have to part ways with something. And our prospect pool is already thin. We don't, like you mentioned, we don't have second round picks for the next 3 years. We don't have a first round pick in 2025. We need a way to replenish the pool here. I do want to note though, it's important to mention this. The Leafs were the reason why they fell so low is because they had guys graduate. So it's not like our prospect pool got worse as a result of our prospects declining in value or play. Like most notably, what he wrote here is that Matthew Knies graduated from his prospect pool rankings. Nick Robertson also graduated from the prospect pool rankings, and Joseph Wohlgart. So that's three.
He wrote that those three graduated from them.
Yes,
okay, that's huge.
Yeah, so losing those three, like you're losing 3 people in a prospect pool. He ranked 14 players, so you're losing 12 players this year for the Leafs. So that means you're losing a quarter of your players. Of course, if you only have 3 picks to replenish that pool, chances are it's not going to go so well. But what was interesting to me and what kind of stuck out to me was the number 1 guy in our prospect right now, according to Scott Wheeler, is Easton Cowan. So kudos to the 100%. Kudos to the Leafs and kudos to the organization for making that pick, because a lot of people are going to have to go back and delete some tweets on Easton Cowan because a lot of people were saying, who the F is this guy? From what I read in this article, if you have the Athletic, Scott Wheeler has spoken very highly of him. We talked with Rob Simpson, who's the assistant general manager of the London Knights. He said if you looked at his point production, Cowan in the playoff with Cowan in the playoffs, he's right up there with some of the best names at 17. He lists guys like Max Domi, Corey Perry, Bo Horvat, Robert Thomas. There's some really high level names that he's up there with. So
Cowan's, do you know what Easton Cowan's point, like his point streak's at right now?
Is it 24 games or something like that?
No, 19.
20 games? 19?
You ruined it.
I thought I saw
19. Like that's fantastic. He's averaging like 2 points a game in that span.
That's what I was saying. I saw that he had like 24 points in like 10, like what was it, like 15 games, whatever, 16 games or something like that. It's crazy.
Tonight too.
It's nuts. Well, by the time this comes out, it's gonna be 24 games. So a lot there to.
When do you think we're releasing this?
I don't know. Anyways, a lot to like there with Easton Cowan. The thing
gotta give credit where credit is due. Carlo Colaiacovo and Frankie Corrado both were saying, like, after the Leafs drafted him, they did panel work for some of the CHL games and they watched London in the playoffs. And they probably didn't watch London very much in the regular season. They watched London a good amount in the playoffs, and they said, wow, like, I liked Easton Cowan. Like, I liked him in the playoffs. I think this is a solid pick. So shout out to those 2 guys.
Yeah. And then a couple other things that I thought were interesting to me. Our number 2 ranked prospect, I wouldn't have guessed it, but Wheeler has Dennis Hildeby as our number 2 ranked prospect right now. Had some good things to say here. It's always tough to project goalies, to be fair. Like, this isn't like a slight on Wheeler, but last year this time he had Wall as our 8th best prospect. Listen, it's not easy to project goalies at all. There's that. Number 3.
But when you look at it, Wool is a 98 born, so he was 24 at the time. He was just kind of coming into his own in the AHL, and he was coming off of a big shoulder surgery. So I think at this point last year, I don't even know if Wool was like back on the active roster yet. Or if he would have been in the AHL. He would have been ripping up the AHL pretty good. But so kind of hard to tell. But I will say this: Hildeby at one point had a 930. He's down to a 919. But some fun clips came out this weekend. Did you see what the Marlies were tweeting?
No.
It's All-Star game for the AHL.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they do a 3-on-0 drill. They do like a back and forth drill, which is really cool. And he did awesome in both of those. So that was fun to see. But I've highlighted Dennis Hill to be very well. I have my opinions on him. He still has some work to do, I will say.
Yeah. And yeah, just gonna run through a couple other prospects here before we sign off. Number 3, Topi Niemela. I didn't expect him to be number 3. I thought maybe Fraser Minton would
Number
be higher.
3 is Niemela?
Yep.
I thought you
Niemela is
said
number 3.
Hirvonen was.
No, I messed that up. Sorry, I got the 2
Oh,
Finnish
the
guys.
wrong Finn.
Yeah, my bad. So yeah, Niemela is number 3. Just
Wow.
basically TLDR from Wheeler here projects him to be number 4 or 5 at his ceiling, 6'7" floor.
Wow.
The problem with him is he's small, and I think he's not strong enough yet. He's still only 21. But the biggest thing that stuck out to me, what Wheeler said, is that he's smart on his exits, and he can make subtle plays with the puck to evade pressure, escape danger, and get the puck out of the zone, which is something I feel like the Leafs have been like lacking this year from defensemen. So that's like a little bit interesting to say, like, hey, maybe this guy comes into the NHL sooner than we expect if we're not able to address this problem sooner rather than later. I'm not saying this year, maybe next year. We'll see, because I think that is a hole with the team. But again, the problem being, if you're that small, and if he does, from the sound of it, he doesn't have the best footwork either. If you're that small, you don't have good footwork. It's like a tough hand to deal. So that one, and then this leads me to number 4, Fraser Minton. I don't want to, like, I feel like I'm lower on Fraser Minton than almost everyone in Leafs Nation, but this kind of reaffirmed it for me. Everyone talks about him as if he's like a highly touted prospect, but like, what do you want? You got to think about what you want from your prospects and what the upside is of them being here.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking off air beforehand, like, you gave the upside of Calle Jarnkrok, and I think that, like, that's the upside, like the generous upside, right? And if that's the ceiling, I'd be more than happy to part ways with Fraser Minton for a guy like if Fraser Minton's the difference between like getting a Noah Hannafin or something crazy like that, like, you got to pull the trigger on that, because I like, from what I saw of Fraser Minton in the NHL, the way that he's not really dominating OHL at the OHL at his age, sorry, WHL at his age, it's that's, I don't want to call it a red flag, but he's just an effort-based player who doesn't have the skill upside. So, and and Wheeler agrees, he's going to be a bottom 6 center in the NHL, which is good.
Yeah.
It'll be a cost-controlled bottom 6 center, which is incredibly helpful for you. But at the same time, if, like, I wouldn't stop him from being, like, allowing us to make this team a lot better. So yeah, that's pretty much the major prospects we have in our pool here.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get out here, a couple more that I want to highlight. Ronnie Hirvonen, number 6. This is just an update on him. Unfortunate injury situation where I think he just returned from. He had an eye.
Had an assist in his first game.
So he got a high stick in the eye. He's lost part of his vision, which is terrible to hear.
Oh
yeah, he lost part of his vision. So hopefully he can, like, just play, like, just get back to, like, his normal playing. Like, I feel like he's a little bit far away now as a result of that. Always sucks to hear.
It's terrible.
The bright spot, according to Scott Wheeler, of the best story, I guess, is what he put, is Nikita Grebyankin, who you've probably seen, and I probably butchered his last name.
Where does he have him ranked?
He has him ranked at number 7, drafted as an overager in the 2022 draft year, 5th round. He led the MHL in scoring.
So I believe right now, Grebyankin is 2nd in the KHL for U21 or U22 scoring.
U21 scoring. He's well, as of this article, maybe he passed Danila Yurov, who's his teammate, but he's 3rd according to this article. It's between Yurov, him, and Michkov. Still, that's good company to be around under 21 in the KHL. He's 6'2". I don't know if he plays like a power forward. I'm not going to pretend like I watch him, but he did. There was a clip circulating of him fighting. So do with that what you will. Still think he's probably a little further away than people expect him to be. But if he could just be like a complimentary, Wheeler's saying if he could be a complimentary NHL winger, that would be the right path for him. Just need patience in his development, because there's obviously holes in his game. So those were a couple that I wanted to highlight here. If you want to check out the article, it's over at The Athletic. Go check it out. It's a good read, fun read. Just wanted to touch on those things. My biggest takeaway is that I really think Leafs Nation
on that list at all?
Yeah, Tverberg is 9th.
He's been hot recently. He's got when he gets the puck with space, he's been able to bury, which has been really, really cool to see. He's been hot recently, so to see him that low, I thought maybe it'd be a little touch higher, but that's okay. Who did he have sixth then?
Sixth was Hervinen. Fifth was Aktimov.
Archer
Archer.
Aktimov at 6
Yes.
or at 5 or 6?
5 at 5.
At 5, Archer Aktimov.
It was Aktimov.
So he doesn't even
Hervinen,
have like Noah
Bianca.
Chadwick on this list at all.
Chadwick is a little bit lower. Chadwick's 13th.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
I've checked in. I've watched highlights on all of these guys. I've watched some of them. I've watched the Marlies guys more than the non-Marlies guys, obviously. So that's where I know a little bit. Like Greg Biankin, I've just watched highlights. Aktimov, I've just watched highlights. But yeah, that's where the goalie discussion is very, very odd. It's such a it is kind of a coin flip because Aktimov is faster than Hildeby is. Hildeby's just massive. He's 6'7". But Aktimov moves better in the net. I will say that. But Aktimov has things to his style that from what I've seen, that he really, really needs to clean up. I think he's way too wild in the net and needs to clean up his form, as well as what's it called? His positioning. Just like a little bit of what I saw, just over challenging, sliding all over the place, not getting set on shots, that sort of thing. But the speed and size is there, so that's always encouraging. But yeah, who knows what we have until he gets to North America, kind of thing.
yeah,
So
we'll see.
An interesting list, but it has been reported the Leafs are not willing to part with Cowan and Minton, and it looks like it's because they want them to be cost controlled options in the lineup come next year.
Fair enough. That is like completely fair course, like path to take for this team, like team building wise. I just would be hesitant to say no to a deal if it truly improves your team long term. If you feel like it improves your team long term and the acquisition cost is like the difference of you saying yes and no is Fraser Minton, it could be a mistake. Again, this all depends on what the deal is. I just think that a lot of Leafs Nation is higher on Fraser Minton than than what we should be, is what I'm saying. And I don't want to be I'm not trying to be negative.
Off air, Jason called him Frederick Gauthier 2.0.
I didn't say that's a little bit out of context. I'm saying the way I described it was like his career path would probably be like something similar to that, where
Where's
maybe
Fred
he's
Gauthier right now?
I don't know.
Switzerland.
So who knows? But yeah, like anyways, we talked a lot about Minton and his flaws earlier on in the year. If you want to go check that out, the biggest thing from the prospect pool, biggest takeaway. This is just from Scott Wheeler. We lack top end talent, obviously, but he said that there's a lot of middle tier talent, not middle tier as in middle six talent, like just middle tier prospects, which makes our pool relatively deep. So it has a lack of high end, but it has a lot at the back end. So you have like
a lot of guys where it's like, like that's some good production in that league,
like a dart throw.
Position. Like Chadwick's producing very well. Grabyankin for his age is producing very well in the KHL right now. Like there's some things to be like, like that's good to see.
He tiered it off with 8 players in this middle tier. So the top tier was the first 4. Then there's 9 players in that middle tier. If 2 of those even sniff an NHL game, that's positive, I think. So they're just dart throws, and if they can get in, they get in. That's all it is. That's part of the game. So anyways, hope people enjoyed that little prospect update. Shout out to Scott Wheeler, because this is all him. I just read his article, basically. I read his article and just kind of try to share with you his thoughts on it. And with a little bit of my thoughts in there as well.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's all we have for today. Am I
not
correct? All right.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hopefully we get another few Leafs wins to talk about for next week.
Let's do it. Go Leafs.